So we finished off our last session here talking about the little horn. Now, I just want to review what the Bible said in chapter 7 about the little horn one more time. I want to review that, the things that the chapter 7 brought out with regard to the little horn, and we'll just touch, and because these things are becoming important as we will look at these verses between verses 10 and 14 of chapter 8 and going forward in chapter 8. The, the remembering who the little horn is and what he represents is important here. Okay, so let's look at chapter 7 as we get started here. Daniel chapter 7. Again, we're going to start at verse 8, and then I'm going to skip around a bit just because we're just looking at the little horn. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 8. Daniel 7 and verse 8. So we're just looking at the little horn for now. And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Now, I want to make sure we're clear. The three horns that were plucked up are not the same thing as the three ribs that you saw in the bear's mouth. There's two separate issues. Okay, so the three horns that were plucked up by the roots by this little horn is a separate issue than the three ribs you saw in the bear's mouth. All right, y'all hearing me? I want to make sure again. These three horns are representing three that was once the Roman Empire was once divided into 10. Europe was divided into 10 positions of power, 10 nations of power. Now you end up having things like France and Belgium and Great Britain and all that, but then they were called different things, and they were each of them were points of power of what was then Europe. And when Europe became officially Catholic, which officially happened in 508 AD. It became officially a Catholic religion of the entire Europe, the Catholic religion, which was considered Christianity. Okay. There were three of the 10 divisions that rebelled against Roman Catholicism. And the armies of Europe fought against these three countries that rebelled against the Catholic Church. And that's where you get these three horns that were plucked up by the roots. Are you following me? So you had different divisions that are now countries like Portugal, Italy, France, Spain, Germany, Belgium, Denmark, England. You had these different divisions. They were not called by these names at that time. They were not called by these names at the time. They're called like stuff like Ostrogoths, Alemanni, Heruli, Anglos. They were called by these different names. Yeah, that's right. There were 10 divisions. Now, when in 508, the King of France declared that the Bishop of Rome was the corrector of all heretics, which means the Bishop of Rome became the head of the church. And the church was the Catholic Church. Okay? Now, you had three countries in Europe that rebelled against this. I think the Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, and the Heruli rebelled against this. And the other nations fought against them on behalf of the Catholic Church. Okay? And that battle lasted 30 years. The wars would go back and forth for 30 years until the three nations were subdued and all of Europe was under the control of the Catholic Church. And so at that time, you had the Catholic Church was controlling both economic as well as religious business in Europe. And Europe at that time became the center of the earth because the sons of Japhet were now in charge. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? So after the Medes and the Persians and the Greeks came and the Romans came, the sons of Japhet were ruling the earth at that time. Okay, so up until from that time until now, the sons of Japhet, as prophetically shown, were going to rule the earth. And so that being the case, Europe became the centerpiece of the earth because everything in Europe became most important, and they would, they would steal history from the Egyptians and steal history from Timbuktu and repackage it as something that established in Europe, right? They would steal mathematics from Egyptians and mathematics from the Babylonians, and they would bring it into Germany, and all of a sudden it became German, right? So that's how they did it. And it became the centerpiece. They would take philosophy that they found in Timbuktu and books out of Timbuktu and books out of Kemet, and they would bring it and they would say, oh, Aristotle and Plato and these cats came up with this. No, they copied it out of Africa, but that's how they did it because Europe became the centerpiece of the earth. And so the Bishop of Rome was the centerpiece of Europe in that his church, the Catholic Church, was the religion. Okay, there was no other religion allowed. Not much. They did invent guns. They did invent bombs. They had to give them that. They invented cannons and guns and bombs, and the invention of those weapons is what helped them dominate the earth. Just like today. Why does the United States put such fear in other countries? Because we have the nuclear weapons. Because we have the nuclear weapons. Other countries might have a couple of bombs, but the United States have tens of thousands of bombs. Okay, so that's why everybody's scared of us. And that's the same thing that happened just based in Europe. They came up with the invention of the gunpowder and the gun and the cannon, and then different types of guns, and then that developed to what we have today. So that helped them when they came here to what's now called the Americas, and the Indians were here. How they destroyed the Indians? They had guns. Indians just had bows and arrows and spears. They had guns, right? And they had guns that can shoot projectiles at fast speeds and do damage to the human body, right? So that's how they ended up becoming rulers of the earth. Okay. But it's prophesied. That's why when we read here in Daniel chapter 8, and it said that the first animal we saw was the ram, and it said, remember it said when the goat came that the ram had no power to fight against the goat, because it's prophesied. It's just like, why did in South Africa did the Africans outnumber the Dutch and the people that came there, but they were under their subjection because they had no power, because it was prophesied. Why did the people of West Africa, even right now when they came slaves, they outnumbered the people on the ship, but they were still taken into custody, right? It was prophesied. Just like when the downfall of Yafet comes, which is prophesied, they will have no power to maintain their authority. They will have no power to maintain their dominance because it's prophesied. And the prophecy is going to happen. That's right. They rule by force and chaos. And that goes back to Daniel 2. Remember what it said, as the iron breaketh in pieces and bruises, so shall this break in pieces and bruise, right? So this is why it rules by ruthless force. And and that's how it does. That's how it is. It's prophesied. So prophecy shows us everything. It's not, man tries to analyze like why it happened, but prophecy tells us it's going to happen. And it's going to happen according to prophecy, right? When the Most High shows us, speaks a word, it's going to come to pass, right? So he prophesied, he tells us Yafet is going to run the earth for a period of time, a long period of time. And we have been seeing that. But their dominance is going to come to an end with the awakening of the nation of Israel. And that's what we're seeing right now. As the brothers are awakening to who they are, the awakening itself is the death knell of the white privilege. The awakening itself is the death knell of the establishment of European dominance. It's the awakening of the Israelite nation is the death knell. Okay? Because the prophecy is going to come to pass. Just like when Moses came on the scene, it was the awakening of the Israelites that was the start of the deliverance from the Egyptians. And there was nothing the Egyptian was going to be able to do about it, because the Most High prophesied that was going to happen. Okay, you can't go against his word. There's nothing anyone can do to stop the word of the Most High from coming to pass. I mean, nobody can stop it. So when he gives a word, it's going to come to pass. There's no question. The only question of what side of the word are you going to be on, because it's going to come to pass. So now we had this little horn. So we looked at verse 8. Let's continue in Daniel 7, just looking at the little horn. Just looking at the little horn. Daniel chapter 7. I'm going to read verse 20 and 21 of Daniel 7. Again, we're looking at the little horn. Daniel 7, verse 20 and 21. And the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows, I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. So the Bible is telling us, and the Most High was showing Daniel, that the little horn, at least for a while, would prevail against the chosen people. It would prevail against the saints of the Most High. And as we're going to read in a few minutes, it's going to prevail against the truth. Now that sounds wild, doesn't it? But it's just for a little while. Just for a while. It's a limited time. It's a limited time. Well, it's a long time, but it's limited in terms of the fact that it's not eternity. Okay? It's going to come to an end. And we're in exciting times because we're at the end of its rule right now. We're at the end of it. So let's look at, again, Daniel chapter 7, talking about the little horn. So it spake eyes, it spoke great things, it spoke very great things. It caused other powers to be torn up. It has a look that's more stout. It makes war with the saints and prevails against them. Let's continue. Daniel 7, 23 down to 25. Daniel chapter 7, 23 to, actually, let's read from 23 to, 22 to 25 for now. Daniel 7, 23 to 25. Notice what it says. And thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. And another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. So this little horn makes war with the saints, subdues the whole earth, speaks great words against the Most High, thinks to change the years and the laws of the Most High, and he will reign for a time and times and the dividing of time. What is that? That's a year is time. Times is 2 years. The dividing of time is half a year. That's 3.5 years. But we're talking prophetic time. So you're talking 1,260 days, which is 3.5 years, or 42 months. And prophetically, you're talking about 1,260 years. 1,260 years. We're going to talk more about that. Okay? And it's all inside of the 2,300 year period. Now, the 3.5 years, the 1,260 years is also 1,260 days, which is also 3.5 years or 42 months, which is also going to come to play in our day. The 1,260 years have already passed, I will tell you that. And the 3.5 year period is part of the time of trouble such as never was. That's a literal 3.5 year period. We're going to talk about that, okay? But for right now, we're dealing with the 2,300 years of Daniel 8, and we're dealing with this 1,260 year period that's inside of it, okay? All right, so the 2,300 years overshadows or overtake is part that is over the 1,260 years. Inside that 2,300 year period is this 1,260 year period. We're going to talk about that. All right, but after all of that, in these last days in which we live, there's going to be a 3.5 years of time of trouble. We're going to talk about that. So this is a dual prophecy, which is not unusual in the Bible. There's often dual prophecies in the Bible. Okay, it's not unusual. All right. Everybody with me so far? I know I've said a lot there. That's why we're recording this, so people can go back and review it. So now the little horn, let's just review. He comes out of Rome. He's a religious power. He's actually the Catholic Church, the papacy. He makes war with the saints and he prevails against them. And he speaks words that go against the Most High, go against his laws, his statutes, and judgments. And he's going to prosper in this for a long time. But it's going to come to an end. And let's look at the last two verses that we need to look at with regard to that. Daniel chapter 7, verse 26 and 27. This is telling us what's going to happen at the end of his reign, which is Daniel chapter 7, verse 26 and 27. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion and greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. See, now let me just break this out for y'all. The sons of Japhet's dominance ends with the Roman Catholic Church's dominance. The sons of Japhet's dominance maintained by the Roman Catholic Church's dominance. When the Roman Catholic Church ceases to be dominant, the sons of Japhet's kingdom comes to an end. The only reason the sons of Japhet's kingdom is still in existence right now is because of the existence of the Roman Catholic Church. They are tied together. Okay, so as Rome is destroyed, so is the domination of the sons of Japhet. And as Rome is destroyed, so is the rise of the kingdom of the Messiah, the kingdom of Israel with the New Jerusalem. That will rise, and it begins with the awakening of the Israelite people. That is why we understand that as we are awakening as Israelite nation is the death knell of this earth's history as it stands. As we are awakening, that is why the devil is trying to kill all black males. That is why he's trying to destroy all the churches and subdue them all, because he's trying to stop this awakening. But as we said, the awakening is prophesied. It's prophesied in Deuteronomy chapter 30. It's prophesied in Ezekiel chapter 36 and 37. It's prophesied in Jeremiah chapter 30, Jeremiah chapter 50, Jeremiah chapter 51. It's prophesied in Haggai. It's prophesied in Obadiah. It's prophesied in Zephaniah. It's prophesied in Zechariah. It's prophesied in Malachi. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be stopped. I gave you all a whole bunch, and there's more than I have even said. There's more, but that's just to illustrate the fact that the prophecy of the awakening, it cannot be stopped. It cannot be stopped. It's prophesied in Isaiah, if I didn't mention that. Isaiah, Zephaniah, Zechariah, Malachi, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Psalms, Deuteronomy, all of these prophesy of the awakening of the Israelite nation. All of them prophesy of the awakening of the Israelite nation. Okay? In some manner, shape, or form. So it's all over the Bible. And of course, Revelation prophesies about it as well. So it cannot be stopped. The word of the Most High will not be stopped. So therefore, as we are awakening to the truth of who we are, as the so-called African American is awakening to who he really is, and in this nation of the United States, which is the center point, it is the flash point of the activity of the last movements on the earth, is the United States. And then you have three flash points. You have Rome, the Vatican, you have the United States, and you have the nation of Israel, the state of Israel with Jerusalem. You have three flash points that are going to have events take place around them that are going to happen very rapidly, but the United States is the most important one. And that's why the awakening here, he's trying his best to deceive the people. Okay, so you have the Vatican, you have the Jerusalem, you have the United States of America. These are the three flashpoints upon which the final movements of the earth But the USA is the most important one because that's where it's all starting right here. This is where the awakening is going to be the strongest. This is where the persecution is going to be the strongest. This is also where the plagues are going to be the strongest. Okay? So we're talking about the little horn. So now, when you're in Daniel chapter 8 and you see little horn, everything that we just read in chapter 7, which we read verse 8, verse 20, verse 21, verse 23, 24, 25, all of those verses have to do with what we're talking about in Daniel chapter 8, this little horn. So let's start at verse 9. Let's start at verse 8. Daniel 8, verse 8. And let's go from Daniel 8, verse 8 to Daniel 8, verse 10. Okay? Daniel 8, verse 8 to Daniel 8, verse 10. Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. Out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Okay, so the little horn is the papacy. Now, I just want to make note, this confuses many people, but I want to bring this out right here. Daniel 2 and Daniel 7 start showing you the military might that became the Roman Empire under the Caesars, and then later it shows you this little horn, which is the religious power. Daniel 8 skips over the Roman Empire completely and brings you from the Greece Empire right to the Roman Catholic Church. It skips over. It completely skips over the Roman Empire in terms of its military, its Caesars, its Caligula Caesar, and its all of the Caesar. It skips right over all the Caesar, and it goes right to the little horn because that's important for the last days, and this is a last day prophecy. Everybody follow me so far? So I don't want you to get confused by that. So it skips right into the little horn. And so out of one of the four horns, the Roman Empire actually came, but then the little horn came out of the Roman Empire. But it just completely skipped that, and it just went right to the little horn, and it's telling you about the little horn. Okay, it does the same thing in Revelation 17, and for the same reason. It just wants you to see this little horn. Okay, because this is the most important piece. Because again, the existence of Asatan's earthly kingdom is completely dependent on the existence of the papacy. When the papacy goes down, Asatan's kingdom is finished. And he knows that. That's why he's putting all of his deceptive power into Rome. How do you think people are just looking at this man in this white that does nothing? He does nothing for the earth. He just speaks a few words and people think he's done something great. He does nothing. And he calls himself the Holy Father, and he flies around in a private jet, and you got billions of people giving their lives for this man. And it doesn't matter who's in the office. It could be Benedict or whoever his name is, or whoever is there now. I forgot their name, but it could be any of them. Whoever's in the office, they're always worshiping him. And he don't do nothing for nobody. He ain't paying nobody's bills, right? He ain't giving nobody no job. Right? But he's starting all kind of trouble. But see, they got the earth fooled into worshiping him. It's the same thing with these Protestant churches. It's the same thing. So like I sat there one day in front of a conference president, and this fool was acting like he's doing me a favor, me being in this church. And I said, my tithe check pays your bill, son. I'm paying you. But he acted like because he's supposed to be the spiritual leader, I'm supposed to be bowing down to him. Well, I had another thought for him. But see, that's how they got people's minds. And they got people thinking you gotta pay the church tithes to be saved. You gotta pay the church tithes to be a faithful member. It's a lie. It's a lie. See, but they got people's minds wrapped up like that. That's the deception. And I told him, I said, you don't pay none of my bills. You ain't helping me in the least. And yet you telling me I got to give money to you? For what? Well, we represent the Levites. Who says you represent the Levites? Where? This is the house of the Lord. Where does it say that this building you built with your Gentile hands is the house of the Lord? You see what I'm saying? But they had people's mind, and they started laughing. I wasn't laughing. I said, Jesuits laugh when they get busted. And they see. But that's the mind control is deep, brothers and sisters. It's powerful, and it's controlling the earth. Okay. But the truth busts it wide open. And that's what's going on. That's the awakening. Exactly. So now, and we're going to talk more about that. So now this little horn takes the stars, which is, now what is the stars? We talked about the stars. They that turn many to righteousness. Well, what turns people to righteousness? Messiah turns people to righteousness. The Father turns people to righteousness. The Word turns people to righteousness. The prophets turn people to righteousness, right? Right? The truth turns people to righteousness. So this casts all that to the ground and replaces it. It doesn't just destroy it, it replaces it with another institution. So you have this Christianity institution that replaces everything that the Most High has given his people, right? And you got the whole earth following this institution. And it's in place of the word that the Most High gave us. It was done in a slick manner, right? So we see that. But let's continue. Now let's go to the all-important verse 11 that we saw is misapplied because of the words taken away, right? Because of the words taken away, which we saw in 73:11 means to exalt. Let's take a look at that. Daniel 8:11. And it's talking about he, when it's talking about he here, he's talking about the little horn. Yea, he, the little horn, magnified even to the prince of the host. Wait, let me ask you a question. When he's talking about the prince of the host, that this man magnified himself against, who is the prince? Who is the prince of the host? That's right. Thank you. Thank you, Isha. It is Messiah. He is the prince. Remember, a prince is next in line to the king. So you have the king is the Ancient of Days. That's the Father. And who's next in line? Messiah. He's the prince. He's going to be the king of this earth. He's going to be the king. His kingdom is that stone that fills the whole earth. He's going to be the king of this earth. He's the prince now. Okay. And generally, anybody that's vying for power on this earth would be declared a prince, as you would see in the book of Daniel, because they're trying to vie for power on this earth. So he magnified himself even to the prince. So in other words, the Pope believes he is higher than Messiah. Do you have evidence of this? Somebody might ask. Yes. What is your evidence? It's very simple. There's a lot of evidence, but let me give you some very simple ones. He calls himself the Holy Father. Is Messiah called the Holy Father? No, he's not called the Holy Father, because Messiah worships the true Father and teaches us to worship. He said, I go to my God and your God. That is the Father. So for the Pope to call himself Holy Father, he must be saying he's higher than Messiah or Vicar of Christ. That's right. He must be saying he's higher than Messiah. But wait a minute, we're not finished. Does not the Catholic Church teach people that Mary intercedes for them, between them and the Father? Don't they teach them to pray to Mary because she intercedes? Well, then that means Messiah is not the intercessor then, huh? He must not be the only intercessor, huh? And the Pope declares that Mary can intercede for you. So now he's also declaring, obviously, that he's higher than the Prince of the Host. Are you following me? So when he says he magnifies himself to the Prince of the Host, you can see in very practical ways that he's been doing this for thousands of years. Or at least at least 8,000, put it that way, at least 1,000 years, 1,500 more exact, been doing this. So they magnified himself. Now, Let's look at the rest of the verse. And it says, and by him, that is by the little horn, the daily was exalted. The daily was exalted. The daily, we said, is what? Is religious paganism from the sons of Japhet. Paganism was exalted. False religion was exalted. False gods are exalted. False doctrines are exalted. And the place, and the word place, when you look at the word place in Hebrew, is the word foundation. The foundation of his, that is the most high now, the foundation of the most high sanctuary was cast down. The foundation of the most high sanctuary was cast down. What is the foundation of the most high sanctuary? Truth and righteousness are the foundation of thy throne. Isn't that what the Bible says? Righteousness is the foundation of your throne. So he cast down truth, he cast down righteousness, and he replaces it with Christianity, with Catholicism, with paganism. Ain't nowhere in the Bible you're supposed to be worshiping no sun god, keeping Sunday. Ain't nowhere in the Bible he say all of a sudden pork is clean. Ain't nowhere in the Bible that his people, the chosen people of Israel, are replaced by any other religion. No. Yet you have all of this that's being propagated by this Pope. Okay? That's right. The settled dwelling place of the Most High is cast down by him. And this is not only spiritual, but figurative, because who destroyed the last temple? The Romans. Isn't that true? Did not the Romans come and destroy the last temple? They destroyed the last temple. And then spiritually speaking, with their doctrines, they're blocking people from knowing the true sanctuary in heaven with the true high priest Messiah and what the Messiah can do or is doing for his people. See, so you can see he cast the sanctuary down, he destroyed it, right? Now, y'all follow me so far? I want to make sure you're with me so far, because it's going to get, there's more. He's blocking the truth about the sanctuary, and then what's inside. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you all a question. In the heavenly sanctuary, tell me what's the most important thing that's in there, aside from the Father himself. What's in the sanctuary that's the most important thing? That's the most important thing. The Father even magnifies it above himself. What is it that's in there? The Ark of the Covenant. That's right, the covenant. The covenant itself. The Ark of the Covenant, which contains the two tables of the covenant. That's the most important thing in there. And this entity, this institution of papacy blocks that. It takes it away. It tells you there's no more law. Our law now is in charge. There's no heavenly sanctuary for you all to be looking at. Therefore, you are blocked from overcoming your sin. You are blocked from receiving the full power of righteousness that the Most High wants to give you. You are blocked from the truth. There you go. The place of his sanctuary was cast down by paganism, and paganism was exalted. I know y'all, I mean, a lot of people are not going to agree with what I'm saying, but y'all see where I'm coming from. I gave you the scripture. I showed you the Strong's Concordance, right? We went through the sanctuary. We studied all of this. Praise the Most High. Okay, now, verse 12, Daniel chapter 8 and verse 12. Daniel 8 and verse 12. Notice what it says. Daniel chapter 8 and verse 12. And an host was given him against the daily by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Now let me break this down. Let's break this down a bit. Again, the word sacrifice is an added term. It should not be there. So a host was given him against paganism. What does that mean? A host was given against paganism. So in other words, listen carefully. The Catholic Church is called the mother of all harlots and abominations of the earth. That means of all false religion, it is the top dog. That means all other pagan false beliefs are subservient to Rome. You're following what I'm saying? Testing 1, 2, 3. Let me say that again. So it says that the Bible shows us that the Catholic Church, that whore, is the mother of all harlots. Revelation 17. And it says it's the mother of all harlots and abomination of the earth. That means all the other paganism, whether you talk about atheism, Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Muslim, Islam, whatever other pagan religion you can come up with is subservient to the Roman Catholic Church. All of them. And of course, all the Christian churches are subservient to the Roman Catholic. They ain't none of them going to ever speak against Rome. Not in any meaningful way. Not in any way that threatens Rome. Okay? They're not going to do it. They're going to bow to Rome. All of them. So that's when it says a host was given against the daily by reason of transgression. What does that mean? Because all these religions are also in transgression against the law of the Most High allowed them all to be subdued by this one queen of paganism. Okay? The one that the devil set up to be the top dog of all paganism. Okay? And that's the Roman Catholic Church. So all of these religions are allowed to be subservient to Rome because of their own transgression against the law of the Most High, by reason of transgression. And it says that it, that is the little horn, cast the truth to the ground and practiced and prospered. So there's a time where he cast the truth of the Most High's word down. He cast the truth of Messiah, the Spirit. He comes up with a Trinity. He comes up with his own a list of bishops and priests. He comes up with his own 10 commandments. Even he comes up with everything. He calls himself the Holy Father. So he's completely and entirely going against the government of heaven. And all the pagan religions of the earth are subservient to him. And even the truth, he attacks the truth and causes the children of Israel to be scattered, to be put in chains, to be murdered. And any sons of Yafet that want the truth. That's where you get your dark ages and your crusades from. Any sons of Yafet that try to rebel, he subdues them too. So the question would be asked, and rightfully so, how long is the Most High going to allow this to continue? Right? That's a good question. How long is he going to allow this to continue? I mean, okay, so this entity comes up. He's ruled by Asatan. He stamps all over the truth. He stamps all over the saints of the Most High. He destroys the true Israelites. He destroys the truth of the word. He misrepresents the Spirit, the Most High's sanctuary, misrepresents his priesthood, misrepresents the Messiah. How long are you going to allow this to go on? That's a good question. Exactly. Let's look at Daniel 8, verse 13. Daniel 8, verse 13. Notice what it says. Daniel 8, verse 13. The question is asked. Now remember, Daniel's watching all of this. Daniel's watching all this. This is all being performed right in front of him. And he's watching all this. Just like Yachanan was watching in Revelation. Daniel is watching here in Daniel. So he says, then I heard one saint speaking unto another saint, and said unto that certain which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? So he said, how long you going to allow him to disrespect the heavenly temple like that? How long you going to allow him to reign and prosper over truth like that? How long you allow the wicked to triumph, in other words? Right? Okay, how long you going to allow the wicked to triumph? Good question. Verse 14, Daniel 8:14. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be clean. So after 2,300 years, high priest going to go into the most holy place and put an end to all of this stuff. An end to all of it. Now, 2,300 years, that's a long time, right? So the question that we would want to ask, the question that Daniel would want to know is, okay, it's obviously a long time. Can I know when it starts and when it ends? Can you show me when it starts? It's got to start sometime. When is it starting and when is it ending, right? I mean, Daniel needs to know this. I mean, this would make him sick. I mean, suppose I told you, you've been studying the word, you've been getting impressions, you've been studying different things, and you know this earth can't last much longer, right? I mean, you're like, man, this can't last much longer, and you're looking forward to the kingdom of Messiah coming to destroy all of this wickedness, right? And then here comes this prophet, and he shows you, and the angel shows you, I got bad news. It's going to last another 2,000 years. How would you feel if he told you that? You know, we got 2,000 more years to go through this hell on earth. 2,000 more. That would make you sick, wouldn't it? That would make you sick, man. To know you're gonna have to deal with Trumps and and fake news and liars and murders for 2,000 more years. That would make you sick, right? Well, that's how Daniel felt. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Daniel chapter 8. Now, I'm going to show you, or should I say rather, the word is going to show you the little horn's development out of the Grecian Empire. We're going to start at Daniel 8. We're going to read from verse 20. Well, wait a minute. Before we do that, wait. So, as I said, Daniel wanted to know about the 2,300 days, right? About the evenings and the mornings, right? He wanted to know about that. So now the Most High is going to give him some understanding, but he's not going to give him all yet. Okay? It's like if there's a secret and you want to know what the secret is, and somebody tells you only half the answer to the secret. Well, it's kind of driving you crazy because you want to know the other half, right? They only told you half the secret. And you'll be breaking your neck and bending your mind's intellect to try to figure out what the other half of the secret is. Right? So the Most High is going to give Daniel most of the meaning. He's not going to give him everything yet. And it's going to frustrate Daniel to no end. Notice what it says, Daniel chapter 8. We're going to begin where we left off at verse 14, and let's go down to verse 18. Daniel chapter 8 from verse 14 to verse 18. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, or evenings and mornings, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. You'll see why I say that in a moment. And it came to pass when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. And so he came near where I stood. And when he came, I was afraid and fell on my face. But he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground, but he touched me and set me upright. Now, let's look at this very closely. Watch this. So Daniel heard the two holy ones speak in terms of how long this was going to last. And then they said unto Daniel 2,300 evenings and mornings. Daniel saw everything, and he said he sought for meaning. He's asking, show me what this means. This ram, this goat, these horns, this little horn. Show me what this means. He sought for the meaning. Now, then there stood in front of him one like the appearance of a man. Picture the scene now. Picture yourself. You're Daniel. Listen, are y'all hearing me? Testing 1, 2, 3. I'll make sure you can hear me now. Picture the scene. You're Daniel, okay? You're standing beside a river. And while you're standing beside a river, you start to see a vision. Okay, you start to see a vision. You're seeing this ram, you're seeing this goat, you're seeing these horns, you're seeing these horns dividing to four, you're seeing these little horns. Okay, you're seeing all this. This is after the vision you had already seen about the four beasts coming up out of the ocean and about the little horn. You'd already seen that. Now you're seeing this little horn again. Same little horn you saw before. Okay, so you're seeing this little horn. Then you hear two holy ones talking to one another, and they talking about how long this is going to take place, this dominance by this little horn. And then they say they turn to Daniel and they look at him and they say, 2,300 evenings and mornings, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So now Daniel's seeking for meaning, and this appears in front of him. He says, at the appearance of a man, somebody just appears in front of him. So he's standing by the river and somebody appears right in front of him and starts to talk to him. But he hears a voice. The Bible says he hears a voice. Verse 16, and I heard a man's voice between the banks of the Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. So wait a minute. If something is between the banks of a river, where is it? If you're between the banks of a river, where are you? There's a river and you're in between the banks. Where are you? You're in the river. That's right. That's exactly right. Very good. So if I'm on the banks, if I'm on the bank of the river, that means I'm standing on the side of the river, right? Somebody say, well, you on the bank of the river. You're on the side of the river. But somebody say, he heard a voice in between the banks of the river, right? So in between, that means the voice is coming from the middle of the river. So he hears a voice come from the middle of the river, and his voice says to the man standing in front of him, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. So the man standing in front of Daniel is who? Is Gabriel. The angel Gabriel, the same Gabriel that came to Zechariah, that came to Miriam, the same Gabriel came to Joseph, the same Gabriel here comes to Daniel. Same Gabriel. Gabar al. Gabar al means warrior of the Most High. Gabar means warrior. Gabar means warrior. That's what Gabriel means. Warrior of the Most High. That's what Gabriel means. Gabar al. Gabriel means warrior of the Most High. So here's the warrior of the Most High, Gabriel. He's standing in front of Daniel and he hears commands from the river. And the command is given to him to make Daniel understand this vision. When Daniel saw that all that happened, he fell to the ground, just like Yochanan did. Remember what Yochanan did in Revelation chapter 1? He saw the Messiah standing between the 7 golden candlesticks. He said he fell at his feet as one dead. Remember that? Same thing happens Daniel here. He fell in a deep sleep with his face toward the ground. But Gabriel touches him and sets him up. Okay? Sets him upright. So now Daniel chapter 8, from verse 18 down to verse 24. Daniel 8 from verse 18 down to verse 24. He's going to tell you about Media Persia, Greece, and the little horn right here. Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground. But he touched me and set me upright. And he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be the last end of the indignation. For at the time appointed, the end shall be. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. That's the little horn. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. Now, this is very interesting. It talks about the little horn, and it says, his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. So let me ask you a question. Where does the little horn get his power from if it's not his own power? Where does he get it from? That's right, Asatan. That's exactly right. That's Revelation chapter 13. Let's look real quick. Revelation chapter 13. Revelation 13. I'm going to read verse 1 down to verse 2. Revelation 13, verse 1 and 2. Notice where the power comes from. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So the dragon is working directly with the papacy. When you see the Pope, you're seeing the man that's the closest to the dragon on this earth. Everybody got that? And the dragon is the devil, according to Revelation chapter 12. So you know now, when you see the Pope and the papacy and the priests, these are people that are working directly with Rome. With the dragon himself. So when they have these privy council meetings where they're trying to decide who the next Pope is, who is it that's leading the meeting for real? It's Asatan. He's in the meeting. And he got representatives, of course, from the Jesuit order. Cool. He's leading the meeting. And probably representatives from all of the different orders of the Catholic Church. But the devil himself is the leader. Okay? He is the leader. Now, the little horn is going to come, it says, in the latter times, you're going to understand riddles or dark sentences. His power shall be mighty. He shall destroy wonderfully and shall prosper in practice and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. Okay? That's us. That is why we are scattered the way we are. That is why no denomination is the chosen people, because every denomination is controlled by Rome. You all see that now, don't you? Every denomination, every religion that's organized is controlled by Rome. The Most High's people are a scattered people. The chosen people are scattered. And the Most High is teaching us and reaching us and guiding us in individual ways. So that's why you and I find ourselves by ourselves a lot of times. He's dealing with us as individuals. He's not dealing with us in institutions. Okay? All right. Let's continue. Daniel chapter 8. Now, wait. Before I continue, I want to make sure y'all understand. So he's told Daniel about the ram. He's told Daniel about the goat. He's told Daniel about the little horn. So what are we missing now? What are we missing? What information is Daniel missing that he hasn't been told yet? He told him about the ram. He told him about the goat. He told him about the little horn. But what information is Daniel missing? He's missing the information about the 2,300 days. He has not been given that information. All right, you understand? He has not been given that information. He has been given who the ram is. He's been told who the goat is, and he's been told who the little horn is. He's been told all three of that. Did you notice that? Okay, y'all see that? Testing 1, 2, 3. You want me to read it again? Y'all see it? You want me to read it again? Okay, look, let's read it. Let's read it. Let's read it. Daniel chapter 8, from verse 19 to verse 24. Watch carefully. Daniel 8, 19 to 24. And he said, that is Gabriel, behold, I will make thee, that is Daniel, to know what shall be the last indignation. For the time appointed, the end shall be. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper in practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. Okay? So he's being shown the ram. He's being shown the goat. He's being shown the horn that is between the goat's eyes. He's being shown the 4 empires that come out of the goat. He's being shown the little horn. He's not yet been shown anything about the 2,300 days. Y'all seeing me now? You following me so far? Okay, let's read verse 25. Daniel 8:25. Daniel 8:25. Talking about the little horn some more. And through his policy, also he shall cause craft or deception to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. And he shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. See that? So it's not like we gonna kill the Pope. The Most High is going to destroy him. Okay, going to destroy him. And he says, he shall magnify himself in his heart. He shall cause deception. That's Christianity. We've all been deceived by Christianity. We've all been deceived by the teachings of Christianity, the New Testament Christians and all that. We've all been deceived by all of these. He shall cause deception or crash to prosper, because Christianity is just the offshoot of the Roman Catholic Church. You're following me so far? Testing 1, 2, 3. So that's why we're all in this position. That's why the earth is deceived. And that's why the Bible says that the whole world wanders after the beast. The whole world is deceived. Satan, or the dragon, deceiveth the whole world. He shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. Deception on television, deception in media, right? Deception in the newspaper, deception in movies, deception in churches, deception in politics, deception in drugs, deception everywhere. All the religion. Exactly. He shall cause craft to prosper, and by peace shall destroy many. By destroying the doctrines of the Bible, by removing the truth, he's causing people's souls to be destroyed. He's causing the souls of people to be destroyed because people are believing lies. So again, Daniel has been told about the ram being the Medes and the Persians. He's been told about the goat being the Greeks. He's been told about the horn in between the head of the goat being the great power, Alexander the Great. He's been told that the horn broken up and become 4 kingdoms. He's been told that the little horn comes out of the north of those 4. He has not been told about the 2,300 days. So notice what Gabriel says to him about that. Daniel chapter 8, verse 26. Daniel 8:26. This is what Gabriel's response is to Daniel about the 2,300 days. Notice what he said. And the vision of the evening and the morning, that's the 2,300 days, the vision of the evening and the morning, which was told, is true. Wherefore, shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days. So he says, shut it up. What does that mean? I'm not giving you the meaning of that right now. That's what he's saying. Shut that one up. That vision is true. It's going to be 2,300 years, but I'm not giving you any more information about that right now. It shall be for many days. Now, how did Daniel respond? Notice verse 27. What was Daniel's response to that? Verse 27. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick certain days. Afterward, I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it. He's talking specifically about the 2,300 days because he understood the other parts. He said none understood it. He's not talking about the ram and the he-goat and the little horn. That is understood clearly. But what didn't he understand? He didn't get the 2,300 days. I was astonished at the vision. The length of it would have been astonishing to him. And he said, but none understood it. So he's relaying it to his homies, and he's telling them what he saw, and nobody can get the 2,300 days. None understood. He was sick because he was given part of the information and not given all of the information. When we read Daniel chapter 9, which is our next study, Daniel chapter 9, we're going to see the answer to Daniel's questions about the 2,300 days. The thing that's bothering him about the 2,300 days, he's going to be shown in Daniel chapter 9. Y'all might want to read Daniel 9 ahead of us as we're getting ready to go into Daniel 9. Not today, but for next week, Friday. We'll be in New York City next week, Friday, and we'll be from New York City in our Airbnb in Brooklyn. And by the grace of the Most High, we'll be doing Daniel chapter 9. Let's have a word of prayer.